Hey, welcome back, survivors. So, today I am going to be starting us off with a parable. And our parable today comes from Matthew chapter 13. And I'm going to be beginning with verse 4. It reads, "Behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some of the seeds fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they were not rooted, they withered away. And some fell amongst thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some hundredfold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." All right, y'all. So today I want to talk to you guys just a little bit about getting ready for the season. So today is March 20th, and it is the first day of spring. Now, that's not something that I just organically know, but I looked it up, and I have a really good girlfriend who always knows when it is the beginning or the end of a season. And so she's really into Bath and Body Works candles and hand soaps, like really into them. So she always has her coupon and she knows when the sale day is, and she always hits the sale and she gets her stockpile. And so I know this has kind of become a norm for many people, but one of the things that she is super intentional about doing is ensuring that the hand soap for the season is what's out and it's only out for the particular season. So, for example, let's say it's fall and she puts out her pumpkin spice hand soap in her powder bathroom. The day that Thanksgiving is over, even if the soap is still 2/3 of the way full, she pulls it off the counter, she puts it in her hand soap bin because she has one, and then she doesn't take it back out again until the next fall. Me, on the other hand, if you walk through my house, I might have pumpkin spice in this bathroom, the peppermint candle in the living room. Maybe I have some berries or some peach Bellini throughout the house. I just have my stuff everywhere. As a matter of fact, when she was at the house the other week, she got on me because I still had my winter trees as decoration on my dining table, which of course she called them Christmas trees, but they weren't because they didn't have any ornaments on them. But anyway, one of the things that she always asks me is, "Do you even know what season it is?" And it's really interesting because she would be really surprised to find out that my name, Kia, actually means beginning of the season. And I really don't ever know when the season begins and when it is. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is that there really is a biblical principle to being sure that you're intentional about preparing for the season. So let's take this parable for instance. First of all, I love parables. And the reason I love parables is because Jesus uses them to ensure that regular people are able to relate to spiritual practices. So, what Jesus did was he would speak in a language that people would understand so that they had this format where they were able to identify with whatever it is that he was talking about. So, for example, here we've got a sower or one that sows seeds. He's going out to sow, and clearly he's got his seeds either in his hands or they're in a sack that have a hole in them because he is dropping seed everywhere. Dude is straight unprepared for the season. And we learn through the parable that only the seed that fell on good ground yielded a crop, and a sizable one at that. Imagine how much more productive the crop would have been or the harvest would have been if he had properly prepared for the season by securing his seed and ensuring that the soil was ready to sow before it was time to put the seed in the ground. The parable explains that when the seed was received by the wayside, which in my mind strikes an image of me showing up at Aldi without my quarter and without my shopping bags, the seed just fell away just like my groceries does. Jesus compares this to those that hear the word but don't understand it. One of the things that I've learned over the course of this journey is the importance of understanding the word for yourself. And so for me, understanding the word means understanding the words. That's why almost every week I hit you guys with some type of definition. Because in order for me to really be able to apply what it says in the Bible to my particular situation, I always have to make sure that I really understand what is meant by the words that I'm reading. Next, Jesus speaks about receiving the seeds on stony places. This quickly made me think of Tupac's The Rose That Grew from Concrete. And so in this particular poem, in the second line of the poem, Tupac states that the rose grew from a crack in the concrete, not from a spot sitting directly on top of the pavement. Because in order for anything to grow, it has to be grounded in something. While Tupac refers to this rose as not having feet, really interestingly enough, Jesus compares this flower or this crop or this rose to one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy, but yet has no roots in himself and is only able to endure for a while, stumbling once tribulation or persecution arises. How often do we hear about people in the media or in our own lives who get unexpected success, or they get quick, easy money, or they become overnight celebrities, only for it to fall away quickly because they didn't have anything for it to hold root. They didn't have anything to sustain it. They were a rose without feet. And how naturally would it be that we then transition to he who receives his seed amongst the thorns? How fitting that something so beautiful as a rose be housed in the midst of thorns, something that's hurtful and harmful. How often in our lives do we fixate on the beauty of something that someone else has without even considering the thorns that surround the rose? And as Jesus notes in the text, not all pretty things maintain their fruitfulness, as they're often surrounded by much deceit and then they choke. But he who receives his seed on good ground. Y'all listen, here's the learning point for the week. Whole time we've been talking about seeds, but the power, the increase, the glory is not in the seeds at all. The growth is in the soil. I can give 10 people the same seeds, but whether your crop produces no yield at all, a 30, a 60, or a 100-fold yield, directly is linked to your initial cultivation, of the soil and your ongoing care for the grounds. C, all of the seed planted on good ground resulted in a good crop, but the harvest was magnified based on the work of the farmer. As believers, we're all fed from the same word of God. We can all trust that our seed is going to be planted in good soil. Yet, our harvest can be completely different based on what we do once we've been fed. As we enter into this new season, I encourage you to reflect on this. What are you doing for your soil to ensure that you reap a bountiful harvest? After the word is planted in you, what actionable steps are you taking to strengthen your relationship with Christ, to advance his kingdom, to ensure that your life and your actions are a reflection of him? The harvest may be months away, but it is what we do right now in this season that determines whether or not we produce a crop that is 30, 60, or 100-fold. So take care of your seed, friends, and ensure that God's kingdom gets the greatest possible yield out of what's been planted in you. So, speaking of planting, this morning, the Lord planted something new in my spirit. And what he planted in my spirit is that the survival guide is going to be expanding. And it is going to be expanding by way of a women's circle, that's what we're going to call it, kind of like a book club type thing. I don't have all of the details right now. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm going to keep praying on that, and then I'm going to walk in obedience. However, if the survival circle is something that you think that you might be interested in being a part of or hearing more about, once the Lord gets me together and lets me know what that's supposed to look like, I am going to drop a link in the description box. Feel free to click on that so that you can share that you would be interested in the survival circle. So yes, this is video number 11. Today is the first day of spring. I hope that you guys are all ready for the season. And if you're not, I hope that you are getting ready. And this, guys, is the survival guide. So I will see you next week. Have a good one.